All right. What's up, guys? Coach Andrew Simmons back here for Jog Your Mind, segment number 12. And we're at the finish line. For at least as what this project was originally planned to be. Over the last couple of weeks, as I kind of neared the end of this project, I have heard from so many of you guys how helpful and insightful this has been, whether it's been parents coming up to me at the state meet, or it's been athletes that are coming up to me and saying, man, that really helped me when I needed it. And, that's what it feels like to reach your goal. My goal in putting this whole thing out for this audience was I recognize that you guys as athletes, and when I say that broadly, whether that's parents or athletes that are listening to this, many of you guys are going through the same things at the same time. The feelings of doubt, the feelings of hopeful and hopeless, as well as just trying to help you guys expand on some skills that I have seen take athletes from pretty good to really great. This last week for us was amazing as a team. Jacob finished runner-up, Benji finished runner-up, Rosie won. And that's amazing. I couldn't be more excited for those athletes. And to just watch everybody else that made the state meet. I watched a lot of kids out there this last week that were able to recognize how much they moved forward from last year. Athletes that had struggled with injury. Athletes that weren't always able to see their own progress. And I was able to walk away and I realized one really big thing. Normally that state meet is a wild roller coaster of emotions, and I usually end up seeing people in tears. And all the people that I saw after the race, the only tears I saw quite often were those of joy. And I realized that part of this project has helped people heal and helped people grow. And that's given me motivation to keep the project going. I originally saw this as 12 weeks to just try and see if it resonated, to see if it gave anybody anything. And so to hear from you guys that it's been helpful gives me the motivation to keep it going. Over the off season, I'm not quite sure if I can put out something every single week. I think that having it as a tool for you guys inside each week of your track season is something I can absolutely commit to. And so with that said, we're in the last episode of this, the formal 12-week segments. And so I think we'll break them into seasons just like you guys do. So we'll call this the end of season 1. And maybe we'll get a couple extra innings in there. I've got a few things that I think are helpful. But I wanted to say one thing before we dive in. If you're going onward to Nike Cross or maybe running lane, I want you guys to ask yourself after the state meet, if you guys haven't already gone through it, what do you have to lose? I was talking with a parent, and we were talking about the idea of racing and the idea of running a race. And the key difference there is that the last 3 races of the season, for us here in Colorado, leagues to regionals to state, you want to run well enough, but not so crazy hard that you're worn out for regionals. You got to get there. The same thing at a regionals. You need to race your butt off, but not so much that you're not ready for, racing the state meet. And then at state, it's about trying to go all in, but also scoring points for your team. So you need to run a smart enough race to help your team. But sometimes that means putting yourself in the back seat, and your needs and your individual wants to maybe go after a PR. Sometimes you can have both, but sometimes you can't race fully unrestrained, because blowing up at mile 2 might mean that your team loses by the 2 or 3 people that pass you because you didn't quite manage your effort. The same goes if you run it a little too soft. You could lose a couple points there as well. It's a gamble. It's a gamble no matter what, no matter how you race it. But when you look at Nike Cross and you look at running lane, I'm going to encourage all of you guys to race unrestrained. I was talking with a few athletes this last week before our state meet, and we talked about the idea that pressure is a privilege. Sometimes that pressure can feel really heavy and it can weigh us down. But the privilege that pressure allows us is it can help us rise up. It can help us take things to the next level. But when you guys look at Nike Cross and you guys look at Running Lane or whatever postseason race you're looking at, there's no pressure. There's no pressure at all. It's about just going and seeing what you're capable of and maybe taking some risks that you were really able to take in the last month as you tried to get to the state meet. And I'm not saying this is a last-ditch effort by any means whatsoever. I'm saying approach this with the mindset that if you've been in that second group, put yourself in that first group in this race. If you've seen yourself running with a teammate all season and you're just behind them, go run with them. Put yourself in the position to succeed in these postseason races and see what happens when you believe in you. So I'll leave it at that as far as the postseason is concerned. We'll get into this week's episode. I know we're 6 minutes in, but it's the last one. So I'm going to enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy it. This one might be a little longer than usual. The first thing we're going to talk about, I've got 4 R's for you guys when it comes to looking at the postseason. And we've already talked about postseason racing. So let's talk about what are we going to do once that's done? Well, the first thing is rest. And I'll be quick. 10 to 14 days. You don't have to run. Get on a bike, go swim, go lift weights, or just hang out. You get 4 years of high school to enjoy your friends in this way. And then from there, life gets a lot more real. The responsibilities grow. For 10 to 14 days, just enjoy being a kid, an athlete, whatever it might be. Don't carry the pressure that track is starting. Sure, it is. Absolutely. But those 10 to 14 days are a necessary mental and physical reset. I tell athletes, you know you're ready to come back the day that you're craving a run. And you just want to go out and get some miles in and it's going to feel good. And what I'm going to tell you is that at the moment you feel that, don't act on it right away. Wait one more day. And then you can really go out and go, yep, this is what I was waiting for. And then you know that you're really ready to get back into it. I think when it comes to that necessary physical reset, sometimes we get anxious that we're not doing enough. For those 10 to 14 days, that's when your body's recovering and rebuilding. And yep, the 2 weeks after a break, they're going to be a little rough as you get back into it, but ease into it. If you take the long-term view on this thing, talk about the state meet. And even if you're starting the first week in January, state meet is May 15th. So you've got 5 months and 2 weeks to get ready. That's plenty of time. If you've got your eyes on Nike Outdoor, that's 6+ months starting in January. I'm sitting down with you guys in late October. So if you guys are already preparing, awesome. But realize that it's a long time to stay in pocket and you've got to protect your mental space as well as your physical space. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about isn't really you as much as everybody else. And what I mean by that is I'm going to encourage you guys to sit down and even pause this episode and write down 6 to 10 people that you feel like helped you. And I'll give you the first 6. The other 7 people on your team, if you're a point scoring varsity runner of 7, those people absolutely deserve your gratitude and just thank them for even just showing up. And there could be more inside each of those interactions, some things that you may want to thank people for, a moment that you really enjoyed spending with them, and just a highlight. We often go through life not sharing what people mean to us. And then we get older and we look back and we go, man, I wish I was able to tell that person that. And those moments don't always exist. And so I think it's so important to share gratitude for the people that helped you. I have watched some amazing people this year. I've watched parents that show up for their kid's team, even when their kid isn't racing because they might be injured or they're out sick, but yet the parent still shows up. Think about those people when you sit down to write down the names of people that deserve some gratitude. It doesn't have to be a full-blown letter. It can be a text. It can be a moment after practice. It can be at the banquet. It can be at Nike Cross on the bus ride down or the plane flight down, and you say, hey, I just wanted to say thank you. I want to say thank you for showing up for me, for this team, And it could be one conversation you had that turned a day around, a moment around, or a workout around. Just recognize those people. The reason I tell you guys to do that is it helps close the emotional door that can sometimes exist on a season where it was so good that we don't want it to end. And what's important is that we tell people how much they meant to us and what they brought into our world in that time. That is where I'm going to give you guys a third R in terms of actually looking at refocusing and reviewing the season. If you've been here, you guys know that I think reviewing a race is super important. And so it's still valid to go and look through state, even if it was hard and it wasn't the way you wanted it to end. Go through and review your season, your state race before you review your whole season. And most importantly, do not let one race define your whole season. You may have felt like you were training your whole season for one single race at the end of the year. But that's not true. You trained because you love to train, because you love the sport and what it gives you. Give state and that race, or whatever your last race was, that moment to be what it is. Review it, look at it just like any other race. Be objective, be subjective. And then take a step back. And what I have for you guys in terms of a download this week is a little bit of a different review. Instead of just asking you guys what are 3 things you want to do and improve on for this next season, I ask you guys some tough questions. I ask you guys to think about how you show up. Where do you need to improve? And ultimately at the heart of it, what did you do well? Because you do need to recognize that. You do need to take a moment to sit down and recognize yourself, pat yourself on the back. Because at one point, when you were starting this off, you would have begged for anything to be where you are right now. Even if you're disappointed with your season and that state race or whatever it was, there is a younger version of you that begged to be where you are right now. So give yourself that. And recognize you've done some good work. You need to be proud of yourself. Know that at the end of the day, anybody that listens to this, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you guys for showing up. I'm proud of you guys for sitting down, because this podcast, this episode, however you consume it, it's not for people that are afraid of working on themselves. This is not content for people who are just going to, skirt the uncomfortable. And you're probably not a true blue, heart, deep down runner. And I'm kidding. If you don't like being uncomfortable, there's a little bit of sick, twisted, broken part of our brains as runners that enjoys how hard that last rep in a workout feels. But we can't live there forever. And so if you're struggling with that state race, if it didn't go the way you wanted, that last race or this season didn't go the way you wanted, there will be those times in life where things don't go the way you want them to. And what you have to be able to do is sit down and handle that moment and really dig deep down as to why do I feel that way? And it might just be, man, I wanted it to go differently than it did. And my expectation didn't meet up with my reality. And I could probably list 3 episodes in the last 12 where we talk about that. So it might be worth reviewing that. But what I have for you guys this week in the download is a chance to sit down, to refocus, review, and then define a plan for how you're going to do that and how you're going to look at track season. And the last thing I wanted to say, call it a shameless plug if you want, but if you're listening to this, you're in Colorado and you live close enough to join us, I'd love to have you guys out for our 6 days a week program that we have. If you guys can't make it out, that's okay. This year I'm starting a remote training group focused on athletes that are running the 800, 1600, and 3200. At the time of recording this, our first meeting is this coming Sunday, November 5th. And even if you are continuing on and you have more than just the next, couple weeks planned out, maybe you're going all the way to running lane. I've got athletes that are doing that too. And I'll be writing them a schedule through that, and then we'll shift over to track. So if you guys are looking for something, we've tried to make it really affordable, $200 for 4 months. We meet twice a month over Zoom. We've already got a number of athletes from all over the U.S. Signed up Really excited for that. And so if you guys want to work on your mental skills, you want to work on those with me one-on-one, or even in a group setting, feel free to reach out. You can always get a hold of me if you guys ever need anything or have ways that we can make the next season of this even better. Feel free to email me, andrew@lifelongendurance.com. If you guys just had anything you wanted to share about how this helped you or how you thought this was helpful at all, I would love to hear from you guys as well. So with that said, we're at 15 minutes. I promise to keep this one short. I know I wanted to go a little bit longer, but I think you guys probably have some stuff you want to get into. So with that said, I'll probably put up a couple episodes over the off season, maybe a little recap of Running Lane, and just put something fun together for you guys and help you out when I can. But I'll be back for track. We'll start that off in March, and we'll go all the way to the state meet. That'll be season 2. We'll see you guys later. See you guys soon for Jog Your Mind. Andrew Simmons. See you guys later.